Gemma, do athletes need to cook? What is the value of cooking for performance? Our two questions this morning.
Hmm. Do you think they do?
I think that the benefits of cooking have this much wider effect in whether they need to cook or not. Can you perform without cooking if you've got a chef or somebody providing all the meals for you, or you live within a space where, or an environment, or you perform within an environment where everything is catered? You can perform, but you made the point that I feel is really critical before we came on, and you said, but what if you're not in those environments, and how do you sustain your health and your performance without cooking?
Mm. Yeah. Like you can meet your nutrition needs and you can get what you need in to help you perform by picking things up the shop or getting meals out or at restaurants. It's not to say that it's not possible, but it's being confident and being able to adapt when things don't go to plan, or having skills that just allow you to feel like you can enjoy the process and meet your needs and cook for others. And yeah, there's a journey with it that I think can just open up so many other doors and allow you to feel good about what you're doing, and not just be kind of stuck to, well, I just these basic meals, or relying on whether it's a meal prep company or others to do it for you.
What are the reasons people don't cook?
Time, I would say, is what most people would say is the biggest issue. I think that's both true, and with skills can help to reduce time and mental energy that comes with that. And we're not just cooking very often for ourselves. You're cooking for, families, and not everyone can just have the luxury of switching off and going cooking a nice meal for themselves in the evening.
I had a very funny moment last night. It wasn't funny at all at the time, but it's kind of funny today. Uh, Sandra, my wife, was at a work event, and I had pre-prepared dinner last night, so there was lots of lasagna left over. So I didn't cook yesterday evening. So I offered the girls the lasagna, but because they had been at camps and things, they had eaten, they had a lot of the breadsticks. And so when they came home, instead of, like, they didn't want the lasagna, and it was 29 degrees. So I had little fruit bowls, and they had yogurt, and I had some snacks, and they had raisins, and I put together more of just an easy kind of thing to eat that they were snacking on throughout the course of the evening. So we went up, had their usual baths and showers last night, and they were lying in bed, and there was this moment. We didn't have dinner. We didn't have dinner, and went on and on, like they're supposed to go to sleep, and it was a crisis. There was a meltdown in the bedroom because they hadn't had their dinner. And they actually went down and had a portion of lasagna and came back up, and they were happy then. And it was okay to go to sleep then. But it was like, I can't get them sometimes to eat their dinner. But then when they didn't have what they categorized as their dinner, it something was very significantly out of place.
Yeah, well, you had something prepared, so at least that.
No, I know, but I think, we we had such a great chat this morning about a framework for behavior change, and as Lauren on our team pointed out, that food and nutrition is science, whereas eating is a behavior, and understanding the difference between those, but also understanding the value of having nutrition knowledge and understanding and in the information, but then having a framework, a behavioral framework to operate in. And I think a lot of the time people can view food as a something that they have to do. You often hear about food being a chore, a time consuming, as you pointed out. There's often a cost associated with it. So there's an awful lot of negative potential barriers in place in the way people view cooking. So then you think about the skill component. They mightn't have good knife skills. Then there's the washing up, there's the cleaning, there's the time, there's the risk that it doesn't taste nice. So there's all of these things that you can perceive. Whereas if there's an attitude towards, and I always talk about this, and sometimes people get that kind of, oh, aha moment very quickly, and sometimes they don't. But if you can engage in food and cooking and this being a investment in you, your health, your performance, and behaviors like training that sometimes are challenging to do, but that there's a significant reward from it when you approach it with curiosity and opportunity and excitement, and there's a constant attitude of there's a constant mindset towards evolution. We can evolve this, we can get better, there's new things I want to try, there's new flavors I want to have. And that action having so much evidence for our health, for our performance, that it's something that it's within your control. It's something that can make such a difference to your, to how you feel, to your mood. Then you start to see all of the evidence and value in cooking.
Yeah. Like the identity piece at the very start of like, I'm just not somebody that cooks, or I just don't have those skills. It's not something I enjoy. It just shapes so much of the effort that you like place on everything else around it. Whereas that, if you can start off with like a good attitude and not put so much pressure or expectation on what it has to be, it can make it easier just to start engaging with. Because I think it still is a, if someone doesn't like cooking, is completely new to it, but they do want to make a change and they want to maybe start to cook a couple of simple basic meals, that giving yourself just something small to start with, like a an easy to prepare, put together meal, and just have the goal of making it as simple as possible and as enjoyable as possible, and like reduce the friction around it, because you don't want to start too big for it to feel like I have to have all these perfect meals, or like what it looks like on social media sometimes, of where people are saving all these recipes and it just nothing actually ever changes.
There's
That
two
I
really interesting insights that come from some of the events that we run. So we will often have a food component to our event in Portugal, or events in that we run with athletes. And the two really interesting thing is how competitive people get and how much every single component of the recipe or the meal, in how it tastes, how it looks, what other people think of the food, all becomes so much more important. And that can create a very high level of expectation. You can't do that all the time. And I know it's more about the event and the competitiveness and all that. But the other thing that comes through is people are having so much fun, and they start to go, I never realized that you could make that this easy. I'm definitely going to go away and try that. So you've got two ends of the spectrum where engaging in the process can be fun. There's a learning component. There's a recognition of this is how this can be applied. But also sometimes the thing that you don't want, the you don't want, and it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be something that you do. How we talk about, and you hear in sport all the time how people talk about showing up for training. But if you put cooking as one of those things, that's the byproduct of it. You start to see other patterns, and you start to see other benefits to it because it's something that you're doing on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah, the fun part of it is, well, if you're cooking in Portugal and with a group of other people and there's no other pressures, like that's one setting. Yeah, but being able to bring like elements of that into your own home, of like just not the expectation. Even recipes, you can throw things together and like not have to
Yeah,
weigh
you
them
do
out
that
to the
all the
gram. And
time.
yeah, I do, and then somewhat it still comes out perfect.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. It's good to have the right, level of tolerance when you're throwing things together. I think no, I'm joking, but what I think is so interesting though sometimes is that you could boil potatoes and you could have a piece of baked
Boiled
fish. What?
See boiled potatoes.
Or steamed? No, I boil potatoes sometimes. But you could boil your potatoes, have a bit of salt, small bit of butter, and baked beans and a bit of fish. And you go, geez, that's
It's
unreal.
such an Irish dinner.
Well, I'm not putting it with bacon and cabbage. I'm just saying like beans, spuds, bit of salmon, and like 100%. Like obviously, if you're eating it all the time, it can get a little bit boring. But it's just those core components.
Yeah, it has been able to look through that lens of like there's so many like different parts to the maybe confusion of, well, what ingredients do I need to buy at the shop, or am I going to change my foods every. I think creating that system first can help a little bit of, well, or even just one or two breakfast recipes, like what you're going to have for breakfast, and trying it out, and then moving on to, okay, well, we've got realistically five different dinners in the week. What are they going to look like? And I think breaking it down to just trying to not make it so like it has to be something different every single day.
Yeah, I have told the story so many times about sitting down with Tig Furlong and saying, Tig, we just need to get 12 meals that
Hmm.
you can rotate here. 4 meals a day, three breakfasts, three snacks, three lunches, three dinners. And if you do that, you create a really good base of consistency around the food options. I mean, it can be like I mentioned the beans, beans, eggs, toast. It can be an overnight oats. It can be yogurt and fruit. It can be a bowl of porridge. Like once you have your base, it's very easy to add to it.
Hmm. Yeah, and very often like it's different recipes are just the same ingredients, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Once you start doing it a couple of times, you just start to notice the patterns.
My my good friend Brendan Egan used to always talk about, geez, you can rotate 40 different ingredients to make an awful lot of different meals. If you look at like what goes into your shopping list, of course, the more variety, the better. But there's a real simplicity to it as well. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be
Hmm.
complicated. For people who are listening around the food part, and we talked about the framework that can really help. If we were to take it a step further in how people can apply recipes into a framework, we're very proud of our play, pause, perform framework and our recipe our playbooks. How has that evolved? How has it evolved for you in your head or in reality? But like, what's the story for you behind that evolution?
The framework is to help athletes or anyone in sport to match their nutrition to their training. That was the original, like coming from the periodized nutrition framework in sports science to, yeah, that have something that will help you decide which meals to have based on what type of training day it is, the demands that you have. So play being those recovery meals that would be lower in fiber, lower in carb, or higher in fiber, lower in carbohydrates, moderate protein, plenty of color, and then moderate training, a little bit more carbohydrates, and then the higher demand days being even more carbohydrates and lower in fiber, lower in fat. So the food science part is where probably the most exciting element of it was for us to bring something practical in. But then what I also love about it is like play represents the fun that we want to have with nutrition, and for it to feel easy and more enjoyable, a little bit more experimental because it's a recovery day and there's not that same pressure that it has to be a little bit more like structured towards specific around the carbohydrate demands. and then being able to represent performance demands and nutrition and really start to create a bit more of a deeper understanding of like what meals really represent the best opportunity to perform your best, that they are, it's not just the carbohydrates, but it's like how do these meals make you feel? Are they light? Or is it a hot day and you're choosing maybe prawns instead of another type of protein source? Or what types of carbohydrates that you consume? Like the layers that it can get to within such a simple framework is what we're trying to, or what we're building within the performance recipe playbook and the recipe space.
I came up with something cutting edge yesterday.
You say that every day.
No, I don't. This is fucking next level. This is I think this is going to just, people are going to go, that's good. They're going to go, I'm not sure, and then they're going to go, whoa, how does he do it?
Okay.
Where does he come up with those ideas?
Mm-hmm.
Will I share it?
I suppose.
Are you ready?
You built it up so much, and I am already not impressed.
You're already not impressed. You don't like too much confidence, do you, Jimmy?
Not beforehand.
You
No.
like you like just to keep it very, just don't create too much expectation. Let's play it safe here. Right?
Hmm.
This is not playing safe. Right.
No,
Are you ready?
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, here it is. Fig rolls with custard. Unbelievable. McGinnis, don't give me that shake. Don't
I
shake
could
that.
tell you a story about fig rolls, but
No, no, I don't care about your story about fig rolls. What I want you to do is break up some fig rolls, put them in
no,
a bowl.
it's such a granny biscuit.
Try this, right? So put the custard over and put it in to the microwave for a minute and taste. I I was like, this is big. This is a breakthrough. So you can have it from you're talking about play, but the play is coming in to perform. Do you see what I did?
Mm, I'm too focused on perform.
So you want, like, there's actually a small amount of protein in there, so from a recovery perspective. But if you want like a dessert that tastes like a crumble and you want to have it on a Tuesday after a really tough train session, got you sober, got you sorted, got you going.
I would put apples in the microwave and have it with like custard and cinnamon.
Not,
Not really not cinnamon.
not the same.
Oh, not the same as a fig roll. I wouldn't be eating fig
Right.
roll. No.
Fig roll and custard. Anybody who's watching this,
Don't
just
try this at home.
we'll see. So you don't think it's breakthrough?
Breakthrough. Is this where the bars are for breakthrough?
All right. Okay. Anyway, I I I don't know. I've always got such a kick out of even these kind of conversations, whether if somebody likes it or they don't. But I think it's food does something funny,
Mm,
and it does something funny for like how people engage in it. And I don't think there's enough in the context of performance like this. And I'm, obviously we're having the crack there for a minute, but people talk about this type of stuff like their favorite types of crisps and bar chocolates and bar chocolate and all that kind of stuff. But I think in the space of performance, that's what I love.
mm.
You can have this stuff and you can have these meals and it can fit in your plan. And I mean, I know it's not wildly creative, but I haven't seen custard and fig rolls before.
Yeah, I think that's the cool part of is like you can look at the nutrition values of foods and discover like, oh, that would actually work really well on like as a something to try on a training day. That's not just basic pasta or rice that you have feel like you have to
Exactly.
consume. So yeah, it's that is I like the ideas of that.
Another quick story. I feel like I do. Well, this is 10 years of my life, so I do have a lot of these examples. But I remember when there was a lot of talk about during the time that I was working with Dublin, there's a lot of talk about food provision, and I mean, I remember being down in Galway during the summer and being in a bar one evening, and somebody beside me obviously didn't know I was working with Dublin or their performance nutritionist, and the games came up and Dublin going well, and they said, "Asher, how could they not go well? Should they have a van going around to all of the players' homes every evening, dropping them their meals? Imagine that! Imagine that!" I was like, "How do stories like this? How?" And imagine me hearing that back. But what I was going to say was like, uh, Jim Gavin did ask me, what about providing more meals for the players? And I said, providing meals after training is more than enough. And we want them to take responsibility. It's the same way that you want them to full responsibility for all elements of what they control. And he said, well, it gives them more space for thinking, for analysis. And I said, it does, but let's not undermine the role that this plays in how they prepare and how they recover. And we can do that, and they can do that by having the right systems and frameworks in place. So there's, of course, a sweet spot to it. I mean, you need to have food available after tough trainings, and players are just going home and going to bed. They can't be cooking then. But there is enough space and time, uh, even for elite athletes who are training at the highest level and who have the greatest level of time commitments, to still prepare meals, because it's such an important action to be responsible for and to be connected to.
Did you have different, like, say, somebody who might have seen it as a bit more of a stressful thing to do? Was there like different layers of how someone might engage with that that you would put in place?
I think it's then about acknowledging where their skills are at and saying that if it's making a sandwich, not a fancy meal, that's absolutely fine. If you want to make a smoothie, or you want to have soup and a sandwich, or you want to have a bowl of cereal with topped with fruit and yogurt, that's an action that you're taking responsibility for. It's not marinating your meat and making prawn
Mm.
pill. So that's a
Yeah,
recipe, isn't
I don't know.
But it's just about whatever whatever level that you can commit to. And also, and I think this is really important to say as well, I think homes where partners did most of the cooking, because there was the dynamic in the home, that they were actively a part of the process.
Mm.
That was important, so that even if they didn't do all the cooking, that there was a role that they had, and that it wasn't just they have no idea what they're having when they come home.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different there's often different layers to it, but that it's conscious, not just prescribed.
Yeah. So I think if we went back to the first question, like, do you need to cook for performance? And if we were to find like what is the minimum, like what's the underlying or like the lowest commitment that we're saying, it's like you said there, like that it's you're part of the process, like the planning process, and that you engage in the prep. So then what that means to you or what level that you do at that's the individual part, but
Mm,
the underlying commitment is yes, like you do need to cook for performance.
mm.
It's, how you do that is yeah up to you.
And I think it's also about seeing it as not just, and this is very hard for younger athletes maybe to sometimes see, is like, do I need to cook for my game on Sunday so I will perform better? Well, and this is in a situation where mom or dad is doing the cooking or meals are provided. No, but there
Mhm.
will be a time where you are responsible for it. And there will be a time, whether you're in college or down the line, you're living on your own or with somebody else. So the more you can begin connecting that action to something that, you talked about performance identity earlier on, like this is what it means to be a high performer, then like, we have not gone into any of the minutiae, but like I'll never forget a keynote that Michael Pollan did about the whole session was about cooking. We've shared it and talked about it, and how much more nutritional value there is when you cook. So you're bringing in more nutrients, more fiber, more balance. The quality of what you're eating improves. So you think about that over the course of time, your immune system, your overall health, your energy levels, your mood, how you feel about cooking, the benefits to your body composition. So
Mm.
you can't say that at the start. You can't
Yeah.
say, of course you have to cook.
Mm.
You have to unpack it, as they say in America. But when you do, you start to see it, there's a lot of value in it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Gemma, did you have a winning moment this week?
Um, I need to get better thinking of. I do my thinking at the end of the week. Winning moment this week so far is, well, actually maybe that's from last week if we're doing it that way. That speech I delivered at school was definitely a highlight of the week.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And the photos that you shared are, oh, they're so good. They're so good. It looked like an amazing school.
Yeah, it really was. Good people too. Yours?
I had a call with a young man yesterday who I had done a lot of work with previously. And my winning moment was being back on that call with him and going through and I sent it to you, our pre consultation form. And there's an aspect of what would be an indicator of success. And he talked about being a leader, and he talked about when things are going against them in a game or in a performance setting or situation, being somebody who's able to step up and not to go missing and to understand how to get there, but that would be a big representation. So there's a lot of parts to it that felt like I was I was just in such a good headspace. He was back. Our system has improved so much. I had a better insight of what he wanted to achieve, and then we could really go about targeting that. And when I generated his report afterwards, so we record all of the notes. You take your notes, and then we create a report off the back of it. And I really couldn't believe how well matched the report was to what he wanted to achieve, like really practical actions. And I just thought, like, I'm so excited for him. I'm so excited for him to go and to go actively to do this. And I asked him how does he feel, and he felt like, that I just this the conversation. So there's a lot of parts to what contributed to how I felt about going into it, what the process was, but it's great to feel that sense of improvement.